Hey everybody, it's Jesse. Today we're going to use jQuery with React, which some of you might be shocked at that. If you read a lot of the articles and tutorials, usually they tell you not to use jQuery with React, and they're usually right, but sometimes you already are using it, or you have to use it for some reason. In this case, I'm using the Materialize framework, which needs jQuery for some of the things that it does. Also, if you haven't seen some of the earlier videos when I started this project, the idea was that first we had a really tight timeline. So the first thing we were going to do was make just a static site and have that ready to launch. If we couldn't actually link up the WordPress CMS and with React like we're doing now. Well, the launch date got pushed back to this Thursday, and that gave us enough time to actually do it the way that I wanted it to be from the beginning. But in trying to complete that static site as fast as I possibly could, I used some jQuery. So now I need to make that jQuery work with React. So I've had some success so far in making things work, and I'll show you what I've done, and then we're going to try to make this navigation piece. Let me show you. So this red navigation bar was sticky. If you remember when we had the static site, it was sticky. When we converted this to React site, it started throwing errors in the console. So I disabled the stickiness of it just so that I could get rid of the errors temporarily until I had time to fix it. So now it's time to fix it. And let me make this bigger so we can all see. If you watched yesterday and saw that I went through everything and then couldn't get it to work, the whole problem was I forgot to save the file. So, super embarrassing. I had hard-coded that Hello World page in so that I was searching for the data from the Hello World post. And then when I switched over to use the variable that was getting passed in, I never saved it. So it totally works now. You can go on the demo site. There's a link, and if you go into the news portion of it, you can click on the different news articles. It will take you to the right page. So everything we did yesterday worked. I just didn't save it. So that's why it didn't work. Hey everybody! I got a lot of people saying hi in the live chat. I'll answer one question before we get started. What's the best way to get started with React? Probably find, it's called Create React App. I think that's what it's called. So, assuming that you know how NPM works and you can, pull down packages like that, then find Create React App and you can download that, start it up. Everything will be kind of pre-made for you, so you have less options to customize, but it's really helpful to get you started on that. So I would definitely check that out. And if you're just read through some of the tutorials on React's site, they're actually pretty good. And watch some videos. Hopefully, after I launch the site, I'll have time to do some short videos highlighting some nice resources, give some little tutorials, and that's one of the topics that I am gonna touch on. Okay, so let's get to this. So this big section of code here that I've commented out is what controls the sticky nav. So let's get rid of these comments and see what happens. I think that's it. No, I need this. What else do I need? Okay. Oops. Okay, so I think, there we go. I think that's everything that I commented out. It's now back in. All right, so let me make sure I save that this time. And we're gonna, let me bring this, keep this over here. Let me refresh, make sure the changes are in there. Okay, we can see nothing's happening. Okay, so our sticky nav that was working when we had in-page nav is not defined. All right, so I'm getting an error. I'll bring this over and show you. So it's giving us this error. It was working when they had the static site, and it's not working now. It's saying that in-page nav is not defined. And that's on line 140, so let's go back. Is this something in-page nav? Scrolling. Where is that coming from? It seems like maybe I didn't need that. So I'm obviously not defining that anywhere. Maybe I pulled that over from my previous project and didn't really need it. Let's just try again. All right, and refresh. Oh, nice. Okay, so you are getting this working here. But what I keep having happen to me is that sometimes these will work and sometimes they won't work. I'm not exactly sure why, but when I actually put this on a server, pretty much everything I'm trying to do with jQuery has not been working. I'm not exactly sure why. So here's what I did to get around that. So let me show you. Oh, actually, I'll put this on the server in a second, and again, I'll show you guys how I do that, or at least how I'm doing it right now. So here's what I did. Okay, so normally you would just put everything in your document ready function for jQuery. So, and that would run. For whatever reason, it doesn't always run. It's not always finding things when they're getting loaded. So if I want to be able to actually call these, like let's say from my component, I need to make them available globally. So this is kind of just like a little workaround. There's probably a better way to do this. I've looked up before, but never exactly figured out ways to just use jQuery right within a React component. So like import it in and use it there. And I haven't gotten it to work. Not that it's not doable, I just couldn't get it to work. And since I'm on such a tight timeline for this project, I didn't want to attempt to get that to work. So instead, I knew this would work. I had some things. Let's do this background scroll. So let me show you. We had this on the home page. We have this effect, and so I have this effect of scrolling. Let's see. Let me refresh here for a second. It shouldn't cut that off unless I not a not a great start. Everything I'm trying to do is either working when I expected it not to work or not working when I expected it to work. So I'm just going to restart the dev server here because it just kept loading. So that's like it's pretty fast. It'll start in just a few seconds. All right, it's ready. Okay, so the effect that I had, which for some reason is cutting off here when it was not cutting off previously. But the effect that I have basically is this is like kind of like a parallax effect in the background, and then it stops, and then it starts flowing normally with the page. Okay, so that's that's what we were trying to do. I thought that I had fixed this part, so it was cutting this image off, but I guess I haven't. So here's what I did. I'm just going to run through this quickly because how I did it's not important, but just how we get it to work as within our React component is more important. So basically, just using some jQuery, right? Because for two reasons: one, we already have to load jQuery on this page for Materialize, and two, jQuery can save a lot of time, and I don't have a lot of time right now. So all I'm doing is I'm tracking the scroll as the user scrolls down, and once they get to a certain point in the page, I'm changing the background position Y, and I'm changing it by a certain amount. Let me see what this variable is. So basically, I'm changing in correlation to the scroll. So like every time you scroll 1 pixel, the position changes by 1 pixel. So that's why once you get down to here, it starts scrolling up. It actually is changing the position of this by 1 pixel every time I scroll 1 pixel. Okay, so that's how I get the effect. I had tried just kind of changing it from like background attachment fixed to a different, like just to initial or something, but I had like a big jerk. So at some point it would just change positions very abruptly and it didn't look nice. The other thing I added to try to help get rid of this, getting cut off here, was I did add a check to see what the width was of the window. So depending on the width, it adjusts the position. So I just kind of set this in line with the little ternary operator here. So it's like if the window is larger than 1540 pixels, then we're going to adjust it either up or down. So you're going to have a negative 12 adjustment, so down, or positive 12% up. So for whatever reason, it's not exactly working right now. So, all right, there we go. I think maybe since I have the screen in like a weird kind of square, which is not really a normal screen size nowadays, that's what was giving me. Okay. So that's kind of how it's supposed to look. You're supposed to be able to see that part. All right, so enough about how I did that. The problem was when I first did this, and I just had this whole thing inside my document ready function, it wasn't working. And the same thing with this one. Let me see. A kind of a similar thing happened with this one, a scroll function, which I just wanted to have some buttons to scroll horizontally on a place where I have a responsive table. Okay, so it worked when I tested it, but when I put it on the server, this would not work. It was not recognizing this div at all, so nothing was working on there. So how I solved it was I pulled this function out of the document.ready. So I pulled all this code out, I put it in a function, I gave it this name. Now, when I go to, where's my index page? Have it open? So this exists on the index page. So now I can call this from inside my component. So I have this component did mount, and I call this function inside of there. So the function actually it needed to be called. And I could test that out in the in the console where if I would call the function, it would run. But if I just relied on that document.ready function, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't run. So that's one way, a kind of quick and easy way to get your components working. Now there could be some issues like let's say you have some components that may not be loaded, all right, when this component did mount fires. Then you might want to wrap this in a function that would wait until the site loaded entirely. And that would work if it was farther down on the page and the odds of somebody scrolling there before that actually worked were really slim. So in this case, I don't need to do that. It works, and let me show you. I'll pull in the, actually I have it here. Okay, so this is the version of the site that's on our test URL. So this is actually running on the server. The difference is we're running Next.js, which is our JS framework. We're running it in production mode instead of dev mode. And there are some differences. One difference that I have found that's a little bit frustrating if you're not aware of it at first is when the hot reload happens, sometimes things just don't work. So some of your JavaScript stuff or your styles, just occasionally you'll have a weird glitch where things won't work. So if that happens, don't freak out. Just refresh the page, and it usually works after that. And you won't ever have that problem in production because you're not using the hot module reloading, obviously, in production. So let's go to the home page, and we'll see. This should work. All right, so that works. One other thing to watch out for that I've had happen to me when I'm using this is right now all of this is being server-side rendered and served up. So you can watch this little loading indicator here. When I click team, right, it's actually reloaded. That's it. That's an entire page refresh. But normally, if you're working with React, a lot of times you don't want that page reload. You want it to just, you click it and everything gets pulled in. It's all handled client-side. So you want that client-side routing. It gets you that immediate route right to the next page, and you don't even have to do a page refresh. So if you're going to do that, your document ready function is not going to fire, right? Because it already has fired, right? So it's not going to happen again. So you can't leave your JavaScript in there and expect it to work. So I'm actually doing that, and it works for some things. So let me show you back here in our JavaScript. So for instance, this scroller function I'm using on the events page. Let me find that just to show you. So if you see on the events page, I'm not calling anything from here. Okay, but in the document.ready function, at the bottom here, I am actually calling it this scroller, right? I'm actually calling this as well. I was frustrated trying to get it to work, so I was trying to run this function everywhere I could think of to get it to work. So I'll probably verify that this doesn't need to be in here, and then possibly take it out before this actually goes live, just to get rid of some unnecessary code. But I'm calling that here inside the document.ready function. And since right now we're doing all our routing like more traditionally, where we have a page refresh, this will still work. Now let's go to the events page just to show you. Okay, we'll go down to the bottom, and here's the scrolling thing. Let me shrink the page so we can actually get a scroll. Okay, so this is a responsive style table. So I can scroll like this, or I can use these buttons to scroll. Okay. The reason I put this in is since this scroll bar gets automatically hidden. I don't think it gets hidden on all browsers, but at least Chrome on iOS automatically hides this. I wanted users to know that they could scroll, so I put these buttons in, and since I was going to have these buttons in, I figured people are going to try to click those, so it needs to do something. So we have this scroll. So you can see if you're using traditional routing, you can still call things from your document ready function, and they will work, but not if you're using the client-side routing. And let's just enable that just to show what happens, what works and what doesn't work. So if you're not familiar with Next.js, check out their docs on GitHub. I think I have the link in the description. You'll see about. I guess I'll bring up the docs since I have it here. No, that's not it. That's it. Yeah. Okay. I'll make this a little bit bigger so we can follow along. Okay, so let's go to routing. All right, so checking this routing here. So we can enable client-side transitions between routes if we just use the link component. We can also prefetch. I'm not going to enable the prefetch now. Maybe at some point if we have time, probably not before launch, we can go over this prefetching. It is pretty cool. It can save some time with loading. But right now, we just need to pull this in. We need to import link, and then we need to wrap our link. We'll wrap our sticky nav menu link in this link here. So we're actually going to go to our component for that sticky nav. So let's find that sticky nav, and we'll import link. And this is something that's built into Next. So if you're just using React without using Next, you won't have this. All right, so now let's make this events a link, because I think, let's check the docs just to be sure. Okay, we just need to change it. Okay, we're going to wrap it in the link, and we'll keep the A tags. So link, and then we're going to put an href. We're going to move the href to this link tag. And we can move this inside the link. And we can remove this. I'm not going to worry about the title right now. I think that should be fine there. And we'll save it. Okay. And now let's look here. Let me see. I couldn't tell if this. Let's see. Whoa. I'm getting a lot of errors right now. Okay. Okay, did you see? The errors are I'll show you the errors in a second, but did I not go? Trying to no, we're still getting a page refresh. Let's see why that didn't work. Sorry if I'm losing you. This just is not working right now. What happened here? Okay, so we are importing this. We're using the link tag. I guess we can pull this off. Just since it was like that in the docs. Okay. All right, so we're on the events page. Let's verify this. Let me shrink this so we can verify that this still works. Okay, so that still works. Now we want to go to a different page and flip back. Okay, so actually our routing just isn't working at all right now. I'm thinking maybe there's one thing I want to check. Maybe this has to be on a page. We can check the example here. Next does a good job of having little example projects. So we can just go in here and check. Okay, so they are running this on an actual page. Let's try to run it on a page and see if that makes a difference. Or actually, it looks like our server is not working right now. So let's restart it. I'm getting an error on my server. It's been happening for like a week now, where sometimes it'll just hang. I think I mentioned this in a video last week. So far it's just annoying, and it hasn't slowed me down that much. All right, so let's try this now. Huh. Okay, I don't know if you noticed that. What's happening is it is refreshing. It's refreshing, and not only that, but we're getting all these errors here. And these were the errors that I actually expected to get for that sticky nav. It's saying cannot read property top of undefined. Okay, and let's look. What it's trying to find is this sticky nav, this original sticky nav. And it can't find it. It can't, so it obviously can't get the position. So let's try to do a refresh. Okay, so let's verify. Okay, well this now it just started working. Let's see. Okay. There we go. All right, so here's what's happening. So we finally got it to work. So I think the client-side routing is actually working now for that. I don't know why it's still giving me a little flash. I'll have to check this out to be sure. Wow, okay. My DevTools just crashed because I was getting so many errors from that. So let's open that up again. Yeah, I'm still getting all these errors. So let's leave this page for a second so that we don't keep getting all these errors. Whoa. Wow. What did I break? If you guys notice me do something, let me know, because now I'm getting so many errors and everything's not working. I have not had this happen before. That's weird. All right, let's go check and make sure that we didn't accidentally change something that we shouldn't have. So the only files that we really changed, let me go, I'm just going to do a git status just to see what we changed. The only thing we changed was the component, sticky nav component, and the app.js file. Okay, so let's check it out. So we brought this code back in, and that was fine. We tested this, and this worked. Okay, we had this bottom nav class, add class original. Okay, so it's doing a lot of this stuff. And let me verify. That we are actually calling this the proper name. Okay, we do have bottom nav. Alright, awesome. Let's add in, just like we did for this other component. Where are we at? On the index page. So on our index page, we added in something like this. I want to give this a try, since it worked for that page. Let's give this a try and see how this will work. In case you haven't heard me say this in previous videos, this video is just about showing me going through my daily work, mistakes included. So it's not exactly a tutorial. I will be doing some tutorial videos when I get a chance, and I'll put those on my own channel. So as we go through this, this is not rehearsed. This is actually me having real problems and trying to figure them out. I saved this I did a lot of other stuff today, but I knew this was going to give me a lot of trouble, so I saved it. So this was at least somewhat on purpose to have things break, because I think it's more interesting for the video. So I apologize if you expected more of a tutorial, and some of them will be more tutorial-like, but sometimes everything just goes wrong and we have to figure out what's going on. Alright, so first what we need to do is pull this out. Let's grab everything. Everything we need here. And we're going to pull that out, and we're going to put it in a function. We'll just put it up here. Function, what should we call this? This is our sticky nav, right? We'll just call it sticky nav. And let's throw all that in there and save it. And now we'll go back here and let's see if we can call that. We're going to save that. And let's go back to this. Give it a refresh. Okay, so the sticky nav works. Now let's try it on this events page. That was what freaked everything out last time. Alright, it's working. I'm also not getting a million errors in my console like we were before. Okay, that's nice. Not bad. Let me click a few more times just to see if we can recreate all those errors that we had. We'll go back here. I think our test server is hanging again. So while that's hanging, what we'll do is I'll show you how I am putting this on the server right now, because I don't think I've showed you that yet. So let me bring this in. Right now, I'm just going to say, I'm just going to push this to Git, because we're going to use Git to put this on the server. So somebody asked what theme I'm using. The theme is SETI, S-E-T-I. Alright, so the server restarted. Let's just, alright, cool, that's working. But what's not working? Okay, so we were able to recreate some of this stuff in terms of the errors. So this is no longer working. Let's give it a refresh. just to verify that it's not working. Okay. Yeah, definitely not working. Let me make sure it's not something weird with the screen. Oh, so is it working now? Okay, that's interesting. It started to work now. For some reason, it did not work. I don't know if you guys caught that. When we first loaded the page, it did not work. We resized the page and it worked, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Okay, you see here, it's not working until we resize. We resize just a little bit, and now it's at least kind of working. It's giving us a weird thing. Okay, I'm not going to troubleshoot that right now because I'm in the middle of showing you this. Yeah, because some of these, Paul in the live chat says it's not working because your window size is less than 1540. I guess we'll go back and check this out now. Yeah, so I do have, let's go to this function. The scroll effect here. So I am checking for this window size, or window width. What should happen is if it's greater than 1540, it's just going to have a different base position, but then it's still going to add this scroll, this position Y, which is just based on the scroll position. So it should still be working, like I said, but I'm not going to try to troubleshoot that now. That's just odd because I did test that a lot. The only different thing that I was doing was I was testing it on another screen. I don't know why that is makes such a big difference, but I guess it does. Okay, yeah, and we're getting okay. So let me just show you this. So for a commit message, what do we do? Move. I'm going to move sticky nav into its own function outside. Okay, so we move the sticky nav into its own function outside document.ready. That's about what we did. Okay. So if you're not familiar with Git, it's version control. All I've done is just I've saved this version of the code, and I had a little message there just to say what changed since the last version, and now I've pushed it onto GitHub, which is a site where you can store your code and all your versions, so you can view it and other people can view it and collaborate. And this repo is available. So since we've pushed this, let me switch back over. We're going to go into our server. Also, it looks like I'm still logged in. Let me just, maybe I'm not still logged in. Looks like this says there we go. Okay, so I wasn't logged in. It was still showing it, but it was just kind of lagging a little bit. So let's log back in. So I'm using SSH. When you use SSH, this is my local machine right now. And I'm just going to type in my username and then the IP address. I have a private key on my machine, and there's a public key stored on the server. All right, those have to match up, and then I can log in, and I don't even need a password. So it's pretty cool. I have to log in from this computer, but it prevents people from trying to, guess my password or brute force attack and get in. So now that I'm in here, you can see here's our folder. So let's go into that folder. This has all the same things that we have on our local machine, but I'm now on the server. This is a droplet on DigitalOcean. I did a few videos on how to set that up. We're going to stop our server right now. So you can see I've just stopped that from running, so the site actually won't work right now. And now I'm going to git pull, and all the changes I've now pulled down from GitHub. So this version and the version on our local machine that we're just testing are now exactly the same. And now I need to build this again. So I'm going to go npm run build. Okay, and that's going to run, I'll show you in our package JSON. When I say run build, that's going to be the equivalent of running next build. And then I'm going to actually start it with PM2. And this is what will be run when I start. I don't think I showed you this when we set this up, but when we set up the custom server, which I think was yesterday, but I did need to change this to start the server. We give it this environment variable of production, and that basically, the only thing I'm using this variable for right now is to change the timeout, the expiration of the cache. Okay, so that's all built. Doesn't take very long. And now we're going to start. Okay, so that's started. Now let's go back to it and refresh to make sure it's working. Okay, everything's working. And now let's give it a test. So we did change some things. So we added that stickiness back in. I'm going to open up DevTools here on the side, and I'll put it right here so that way we can check and see what kind of errors we have. Let's see. I don't want to preserve the log. So let's refresh so we get a clean log here. Okay. So you are getting some stuff. Let's see, non-passive event listeners, scroll blocking, touch start event. Okay. We're getting some stuff. I have it set to verbose settings, so we're getting a lot of stuff that you might not normally see. All right, so our sticky now is working. Great. Let's try this out. All right, that's working. And if you remember, this actually is just it's just being initialized from our document ready function. Okay, so this did work. We're not using that client-side routing, which we'll actually test out. First, I want to go to the home page and see what's going on there. Let's see. Sticky nav works. Let's see. All right, looks like that's off. That's not working. It did stop at some point, but it's stopping a lot farther down than we wanted to. We'll give it kind of a more normal screen size. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what was going on with these images, but it looks like they're working now. Let's give it a refresh just to double check that. Okay, the images are working. It's possible, I think I'm using source set to do different image sizes, and I may have, no, it should be working. We'll have to test that later. Okay, so this looks a bit more like it should. And now I want to test this out to see if we actually are linking. And it looks like that did work. Okay, there we go. Finally, this is what I expect. Okay, so this is what I've been trying to get to happen almost the entire time. Let me tell you what happened just in case you missed it. So we added, a few minutes ago, we added this client-side routing. So before we just had regular link tags, it was actually going back to the server, we were getting page refreshes. We added client-side routing. What happens though with client-side routing is the document ready function doesn't fire again. So this never initialized. So we can see this is not working. If I refresh the page, it should work. So let's do that. Let's refresh. See, it is working. So we'll test this one more time, just to test out our theory and demonstrate how this works. We're gonna go to the About page. I want to go somewhere that'll give me a message too. Okay. Oh, I see what's happening. Since I'm using source set on a smaller screen, it's kind of trying to grab a different image, different size image, but I forgot to put the correct route. I just went right to the image folder instead of static, so that's why. Just a little typo, a little mistake there. Alright, so now we're going to go to events. Okay, now once you see, I think we did have a little flash here, but we didn't actually have a refresh. So these same errors that we just had on the home page have not gone away. If we had a page refresh, those should have gone away. So like, see, I just clicked on news, it had a page refresh, all that went away. Right, so those should have gone away. So the client-side routing is working, and that also explains why this isn't working, because we're only calling this from the document ready function. Does that make sense? I'm going to stop and check on you all for a second, since I've been ignoring the live stream to try to get this to work. I know there's going to be a little delay, so I'm going to wait. Basically, the question is, does any of this make sense at all? Can you see why it's not working? And I'll take just another minute here. I know I'm over my half an hour, but I'll take another minute to fix this. We'll push it to the server and test it again to show that how to make your jQuery work with the client-side routing in React. So I'll get ready to do the fix while I'm waiting to hear back from you. Okay, finally. Okay, so Patrick said it makes complete sense. Okay, we'll move on here. I know there's 43 other people viewing right now. So okay, Daniel says it works too. Awesome. So at least 2 of 43 say that it works. If you're one of those other 41 people and you are really confused, leave a message in the comments. Direct message me on Twitter. Rewatch the video. I'm happy to help you try to understand this, especially if you really need to understand this for a project you're working on. I'd be more than happy to talk to you and go over this a little bit more. Or if you have a much easier or better way of doing this and you're just watching this thinking like, what is this idiot doing? Please let me know. So basically what we're going to do, we have all this. This is our scrolling stuff down here. I haven't put it in its own component yet. Eventually, I will put it in its own component because we do have some things that need to repeat. For now, we don't. We don't have a ton of events, so this might be one of the things that just gets hard-coded. Event. This is weird. Sorry, I just got distracted by this little... Oh, okay. My syntax highlighting just made it look weird, but this is correct. We want event/title. It's highlighting some of this stuff as if it were JavaScript when it's really in here. For some reason, my plugin that's supposed to highlight React stuff more accurately has stopped working. I think I probably just need to restart my editor. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Let's grab this from StickyNav, because why type when you can copy and paste? And we'll throw this in here. And I believe we called this hScroller. Yep, hScroller. So we're going to call this on component did mount. There's only one thing I'm worried about. I'm worried that this will actually fire before this stuff loads down here. If this was its own component, I would be less worried about it. because it would only be, so we'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, that's probably why. And I do have one more thing that could be done to fix it if that happens. Okay, so we've saved that. Let's go over here. Let's go back to okay, so we've changed this. We're going to do a git commit, and I'm combining the git add and the commit message into one. And we're going to call hScroller from the component. We're calling hScroller from component did mount. Okay. We're going to push that. Now let's go back to our server and let's first we'll stop it. Now let's git pull. Now let's build. If you notice, I'm using npm on the server, but on my local machine I'm using yarn. Yarn is faster. I like yarn more, but it just simplifies things on the server if I run straight npm. At least for now. I have run yarn on the server too. It's not a big deal, but it's just one less thing I have to load on the server. There was a couple months ago when I set something similar up, there was some weird bug where I couldn't run yarn with PM2. I had to use npm. It was something with the path that it was looking for. So I looked up the problem, but I couldn't get it fixed, so I just stuck with running npm. It's possible that it has changed now. There's been updates for PM2 and yarn since that time. But just in case you're wondering, that's why it's different. Now let's just start it up again. So the build is complete. Alright, now we're back online. And let's refresh. If you remember, we need to actually navigate away and back to there. Our sticky nav works. This should work. Alright, that still works. Now let's go out to the home page just to see if this works as well, which it should be working, right? Okay, that works. Awesome. Sticky nav is working on the home page, and we're not getting any crazy errors except this one that we knew about already, and that's just my fault for not typing the right path. Now let's go back to events. Now what should happen, you can see we didn't actually have a page refresh because we still have all the same stuff in our console. Now what should happen here is as I scroll down, this should work. And it does. Okay, so just to recap, I'm gonna finish up here. Before it ends, I am gonna show another video interview I did from SyntaxCon. And it's only like a 30-second video. And I'll go through the live chat and answer any questions. So just to recap, in case people were joining in late and didn't see it all, normally when you use jQuery, you're going to put things inside your document ready function. Okay, and then that way, if you have to look up elements on the page, they're loaded, so they will be there. The problem is when you're using React and you're using client-side routing, which is common with React, and you go from one page to another and you don't actually have a page refresh, the document .ready function doesn't fire again, so your code won't work. The first time it ran, it wouldn't have found that element on the page because you were on a different page. So then when you switch, that code will just never run. The solution, or at least one solution, is pull out that code. So you're still in your main app.js or whatever you want to call it, scripts.js. You're still in there. You still can use jQuery as normal, but you've just pulled out literally you just copy and paste that code that's doing the thing that whatever you want it to do, that jQuery, and you just throw it in a function, name it whatever you want, and then you go into your component, and in the component did mount function, which this isn't Next specific. This is in React. So any type of React thing that you're doing will have this. Although I haven't worked with React Native, so I'm assuming React Native has something like this, or maybe the same thing. But basically, you're going to have component did mount, and you're going to call it from in there. And that's going to make sure that when you do your routing, like we just did, okay, so when I go to a different page here, you can see I haven't done that with the side nav yet, so it still doesn't work. So we've gone to a different page, and now we're going to go back to events. Events right now is the only page where we've enabled the client-side routing for. We've gone back to events. The document ready function has not fired, but since this component is now on the page and it wasn't, this component has now mounted. And in this case, the entire page is one component. This will be split out at some point. But since that's the first time this component is loading, it's mounted, it actually calls that function. Okay, so hopefully, I know a couple of you said that did make sense. So hope I didn't confuse you too much. It seems like nobody said they were confused yet. So I hope that was helpful for you. I'm going to repeat what I said at the beginning. Ideally, you don't want to use jQuery when you're using React. Okay, there are some weird side effects that happen because React is trying to track everything in the DOM, and if you change it with jQuery instead of the React way to do it, then it can mess up React's tracking of the DOM. Okay, and you will get some errors and stuff. It won't always break your site. Okay, obviously we're using it here. Our site's not breaking. We're not, the world is not ending by using jQuery and React together. But I expect that a lot of you might be in a situation where you're converting a site to React, or for whatever reason, it's going to be a big deal to try to do things in vanilla JavaScript or the React way to do it when you could do it very easily with jQuery. Sometimes it's just a time issue, like with me right now. I just really don't have time to figure out how to do all these things in vanilla JavaScript. I know it's all possible, but it's just faster to use jQuery right now. So hopefully that helps some of you. I'm going to let me play this video for you. And then after the video, I'll do a quick run through the live chat, see if there's any questions that I can answer for you right now. And then I'll have to go because this site needs to launch on Thursday and there's a lot of work to do. So I'll pretty much be taking breaks for sleeping, and that's about it until we launch. So I did this yesterday and it worked. So I'm going to try this again. I know you can't see this, but I'm literally just unplugging my headphones so that I can play the audio from this video on my speakers on the Mac. Here we go. I have an iMac, so I'm just going to put these through the speakers. And the microphone on the iMac will pick it up. I don't have any special equipment at this point, so hopefully this will work and it's loud enough. Let me full screen it for you. Okay, so this is just a very short interview from SyntaxCon. It's a conference that I went to last week. Really great conference. And this is Ron. I know I'm going to mess up his last name. Sorry, Ron. So Ronak Raithatha, Raithatha. So, sorry, Ron. He's a really nice guy. I got to talk to him and he did a talk on AWS Lambda. So, let's hear what advice he had. He's going to say what his name is, where he works, what he does, and he'll give some what he's excited about, what new technology, and some advice for new coders.
All right, sweet. Hey guys, I'm Ron. I work at BoomTown as a backend software developer. Jesse approached me and he asked me about, to talk about freeCodeCamp and talk to people about it. So let's see. One of the questions was, what's the technology I'm excited about? One of them is serverless, the serverless framework that just came out, and it works with Lambda and a bunch of other cloud platforms. It's pretty cool, pretty nifty to work with. And an advice that I have for people trying to get into coding is that, sure, it's nice to watch courses and do projects, but try stepping out of your comfort zone. That'll help you immensely. And that's
All right, so that's it for the interview. Really short interview. Some of the other ones were longer, but I think I have maybe 3 more to show you. Let me go through the live chat quickly before we end. Okay, I did answer some. Somebody asked how to get started with React, and I answered that earlier. So if you're interested in hearing that answer, watch the recording of this video and go back to the beginning. Ezra says, I'm still a beginner, so I'm already lost. I'm sorry about that. React was like super confusing to me when I started to use it, so just stick with it. It will click at some point. Alright, somebody's asking about my text editor. So it is Atom, and I'm using the SETI theme. Okay, not a lot of questions. Somebody else says they're a beginner and they're lost. So I apologize if I lost you. If you're not familiar with React or even familiar that much with JavaScript, I could see you would definitely be lost. So I'm not always going to be at this kind of level doing videos. I expect when I'm done with this project, then I'll go back and probably start up a new project or get back to just some things that are like basic HTML, CSS things. So since this is just my day-to-day job, it's just a big mix of things. So if this was a little bit over your head, then tune back in, watch some of the older videos, and just follow me on Twitter. I'll tweet out what the topic is every day, and you can see if it's a topic that interests you, that seems like it's more at your level, then tune in. There's definitely some really like beginner type stuff that has been on this show and will be on this show, especially like as we get started in projects. So hopefully there'll be something for everyone at every skill level. My hope is that some people will get a lot from this. Some people, if they're beginners, and some people who are more advanced will give me some advice, and we can kind of work together to learn from each other. Okay, we had one more question here. How do we manage the sticky nav UI? Check out the playlist. So Live Coding with Jesse is a playlist on the FreeCodeCamp channel. In that playlist, you'll see maybe 2 weeks ago, I did a video where we live coded that sticky nav, and I went through that. So check out that video. If anything's confusing, just leave a comment on the video, and I'll get back to you and try to explain it more. But we did. I'm pretty sure that I went over that part in a video, and if I'm just totally losing my mind and I didn't make a video, leave a comment as well, and then maybe I'll put that on the list for a video to make later on. You can also check out all the code for that on GitHub. The link is in the description. Okay, so if there's any other questions, get them in the next 5 seconds. Otherwise, I'll be back on tomorrow, same time. I'll probably be more stressed tomorrow than normal because at that point it'll be less than 24 hours to launch, and I will have probably been working quite a lot between then and now. So hopefully this site is looking way more finished tomorrow, and maybe I'll live stream the launch. So we'll see. I haven't set an exact time for that launch, but that might be cool to actually live stream the pointing the domain name to the right servers, trying it out. And maybe we'll probably be doing some testing tomorrow, so maybe I'll show you how I test with Browser Stack and things like that. We'll try to find some bugs. But I think that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back tomorrow.